Hi, I'm Richard Gottsel with Great Commission Alliance, and this is my Bible Light for you today. A few years back, a musical group called Mike and Mechanics had a hit song, and the words went, "All I need is a miracle, all I need is you." And so today we're going to talk about a miracle that happened in the book of Mark. So let's read Mark 5:25 through 30. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years, she had spent everything she had to pay them, but she'd gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. Or she thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Immediately, the bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she'd been healed of her terrible condition. Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him. So he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my robe? The disciples said to him, look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask, who touched me? You see, Mark describes this woman who had been suffering bleeding for 12 years. She had been under care of many doctors, has spent all that she had, and instead of getting better, she got worse. You see, sexually, she couldn't touch her husband. Maternally, she couldn't bear children. Domestically, anything she touched was considered unclean. And spiritually, she wasn't allowed to enter the temple. Physically, she was exhausted, and socially, she was shunned. Wow. Can you feel for her and her desperation and her life being the way it was? You see, desperation is our turning point where God steps in to perform a miracle. She told herself, if she does nothing, she will die. If she touches his robe and nothing happens, she will die. But if she touches and is healed, she lives. Wow. You see, when we hit bottom, we can continue to linger there or turn to God in hopes of making our way back up. She chose that. In chapter 5 and verse 30, it says, Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him. So he turned around to the crowd and asked, who touched my robe? His disciples said to him, look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask who touched me? But he kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. And Jesus said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over. Wow. She acted out on faith and she was healed. Maybe fear of what others might think has kept you from coming to God, to giving your life totally to him. In 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God did not give us a spirit that makes us afraid, but a spirit of power and love and self-control. You see, faith is a conviction that Jesus can and a hope that he will. Faith is God's power. You see, there was no guarantee that she would be healed if she touched his robe, but she went for it, and that's faith. Faith is not the belief that God will do what you want. Faith is the belief that God will do what is right. You see, the greater your cares, the more genuine your prayers. Now let's change the scene of her touching the robe. Now she's standing before Jesus. Her face is flushed, her feet solid on the ground, and her eyes are fixed on the one who has healed her. And then she hears these words, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. You see, God's help is near and always available, but it's only given to those who seek it. So let's get to the heart of the matter. When we reach the point of total desperation, God steps in. Faith is a conviction that Jesus can and a hope that he will. And faith is the belief that God is real and that God is good. You see, God says that the more hopeless your circumstance, the more likely your salvation. and God's help is near and always available to those who seek it. In 2 Corinthians, Paul writes, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Are you ready to reach out this week? To take a chance in really getting to know Jesus? Are you ready to take a risk to be real with yourself and with others? Are you willing to give up your hurts to Jesus? Your emotions, your physical, your social, and your spiritual? You see, all I need is a miracle. All I need is you, Jesus. I hope this has been helpful, and I pray that you will be blessed and that your faith will be stronger and that you'll be able to take that step of faith to get closer to Jesus. Thank you for listening. God bless you. See you next time.